Hey everyone, my name is Dr. Popular, and this is the Responsive 5A workshop. Uh, we're going to be exploring the world of modern responsive yo-yoing, which is a style of responsive yo-yoing where the yo-yo is super snappy, and a lot of the tricks are done without the yo-yo sleeping, versus most other styles of yo-yoing where the yo-yo sleeping is kind of the definition of a trick. So we're going to be talking about that combined with a freehand counterweight, which is just a counterweight at the end of the string. And so, yeah, this is just the yo-yo I'll be using. I'm sold out of these, so this isn't going to be a sales pitchy kind of thing. This is just trying to help people out who might be interested in kind of maybe they're already 5A players and they just want to learn kind of different things to do, or maybe they are modern responsive players who are looking for a new spin on things. Um, I'm just going to kind of like chill for a little bit, just like while people are kind of like trickling in. I see we have some people watching already. Do me a favor, if you're watching and you can see the chat, drop a note in the chat and just let me know how things sound, and let me know what yo-yo you're going to be using. I'm just kind of curious, like what yo-yos you have that you're throwing with. So yeah, drop a note in the chat if you can, and I'm just gonna kind of just give people a little bit more to get in. Um, Hi, this is a T. Okay. Well, like I said, during the workshop, feel free to leave any chat questions in the chat, and I will try to answer them as I can. That usually helps everyone out. If you have a question, somebody else probably has that same question too. But let's just kind of get started. My name is Dr. Popular. I am the creator of Skin the Gerbil, branding, gyroscopic flop, plus a few weird styles of yo-yoing. I've always kind of gravitated towards the unusual stuff. So the idea that I'm getting into responsive 5A, kind of makes sense. I was into Mobius, created a style called Astro, another style called Washing Machine. So I was kind of like that weird niche style of yo-yoing. Like yo-yoing's already kind of a niche hobby, and then I like to get a little more niche with what I'm doing. Um, and yeah, thanks for just letting me know. Things are sounding good. Daniel James is rocking a freehand zero, which Daniel, you just want to make sure that's set up kind of responsive, and we'll talk about that in a second. And Fred, yeah, Fred, thank you for letting me know how things are sounding too. Oh, that's not supposed to look super small. Why is Fred's comment small? And Daniel got that nice big comment. Yeah, yeah. All right. So we're talking about responsive yo-yoing. What we want to talk about is basically a yo-yo. When we're talking responsive, like modern responsive, what we're talking about is a yo-yo that is going to snap back to your hands. You can have like a semi-responsive yo-yo. I think of the deep state as kind of semi-responsive. It's like something you can kind of play around with. And then at the end, you'll easily be able to get it back up to your hand, but you might not be doing loop-to-loops with a deep state. Maybe you can. I'm sure you can if you put some lube in it. What I want for a modern responsive yo-yo is something that's just like this, like just super snappy. There's no hesitation. When I give it a tug, it's going to come right to my hand. This is a day tripper. Day tripper, like I said, I'm all sold out of day trippers, so I'm not trying to sell you on day trippers. Pop art is another popular yo-yo. Wooden yo-yos are great. This is the timber yo-yo that my buddy Zipline Strings puts out, and just because I have a little cue up, look at how pretty that shot is. For these yo-yos, I'm using leather counterweights, which I really like a lot, and then there's I think a Poricon Delrin counterweight on the side. Huge fan of those. So if you have a responsive yo-yo, just a couple notes about uh, just basic maintenance and stuff like that. A lot of people ask me their responsive yo-yo, starts off snappy, and then after a while, it kind of gets to the point where they kind of tug it, and it kind of feels like it's hesitating a little bit, and not as snappy. Modern responsive play is a lot like Lupin, where there's a lot of maintenance. I think a lot of single A players, like myself, didn't understand exactly how much maintenance there would be. I'm just kind of used to kind of a set it and forget it kind of thing. Like I'll change string every now and then. But when it comes to playing with responsive, you should have a thick grease. I'm using Traxxas. This is a thick silicone grease. They sell this on Amazon. The price tends to fluctuate anywhere between $4 to $6, and one little tube of that will last you maybe for the rest of your life. I, will lube maybe 100 yo-yos with one tube of these. So on the sides of the bearing. So instead of putting it right on the bearing, I put it on the side of the yo-yo, right next to the inner race. You can kind of see the little oil shimmer there. So I put my grease here and the grease on the other side, and then put the yo-yo together. I just like to pretend. I mean, I don't have any scientific data on this, but I like to pretend that helps kind of keep it greased more evenly rather than all at once and then going away. And the wobbler, I just wanted to say hi, shout out to having a pop art and the Porycon. Thanks to y'all for sharing what yo-yos you're using in the side here. That it's nice to know people are watching and kind of miss crowds. So yes, let's talk about uh, the basics. And I'm not going to spend a lot of time talking about the basics of modern responsive, but one of the first things that you need to make sure you know to do responsive counterweight play is a stall, just a basic stall. And this is something that's covered in plenty of videos. And I'm hoping a lot of you folks watching this, if you have a responsive yo-yo, this is already something you're kind of used to doing. But basically, a responsive stall, a trapeze stall, it's just going to be a breakaway, and then you give the yo-yo a pull right before it touches your finger. So you're just going to throw a breakaway, pull, and catch a trapeze. Now, for the first trick that we're going to learn, what I like to do, and then back just actually before I get to tricks, just a little bit more maintenance. When you're doing a trapeze stall or like when you're setting up your yo-yo, I like to keep the string kind of close to belly button length. Long string is going to make stalls harder to land. If you have a long string, what's going to happen is it's going to take up more space when it winds, and then you're going to have less space for the yo-yo to kind of sit. So if you're really struggling with the trapeze stall, you can try using a shorter string. That might help you out a lot. Make sure you're using high wall yo-yo. Okay, I meant to kind of go over all these but some people might need just kind of getting started with that stuff. So yes, now back to the trapeze stall. The first trick we're going to learn is going to be a pop over, and a pop over is going to be trapeze stall and then a toss and out. And I kind of fumbled that together. You guys are making me nervous for some reason. I should relax. Okay, yeah. So trapeze stall, wrap around. Now, before we get into the toss, let's just break down the trapeze stall. I really want to fight the habit of bringing my hands close together because that's not going to give me much room to throw. So for that first stall, you really want to kind of keep it close to your non-throw hand. For me, that's my left hand. So I keep it close to my free hand. And I want to try to keep my hands kind of far apart. And what that's going to do is it's going to make this easier. So when you're doing that trapeze stall, don't try to catch it kind of like close to both hands because you're not going to have anything to toss. What you want to do is try to keep your hands kind of far apart, force them apart, and catch really close to your free hand. For me, that's my left hand. So once you have that stall, we're just going to toss the counterweight over and then unwind. And when I do this, I tend to do this kind of all like one motion, almost right as the yo-yo is catching. I tend to do that toss over. But if we're breaking it down, it's stall, toss, unwind, unwind. And hopefully everyone watching has a nice snappy yo-yo to make this stall possible. If you're struggling with that stall, you want to find some other yo-yo to use. You need a nice snappy yo-yo, maybe like a fixed axle wood yo-yo. Yeah. Also, shout out to Yo-Yo Factory. Yo-Yo Factory makes these spin stars. These are like, I think they're under $10. They're just Delrin inside. There's no bearing. And these are great if you need a cheap, responsive yo-yo. Like this one's just out of the box. And it's just super snappy. It's like just the right amount of spin. Like it'll, sleep for tricks, but really snappy. Anyway, I'm digressing. just wanted to say, if you're struggling with sleep times, maybe grab just a fixed axle yo-yo or something like that. I want to see how my pacing is going on this because this is kind of a fundamental trick. Has anyone tried this trick in the chat? Is anyone having any luck with it? If you have any questions, let me know. And howdy, X-Mime. Good to see you. Cool. Let's see what this is. Yeah. Here, I'll drop this note from X-Mime about the spin star. Do. Cool. So you've got your stall. You've got your pop over. Let's do that again. Oop. And even I am kind of making that mistake of keeping my hands too close together. Like that's going to be kind of hard to do. So even I'm trying to kind of like when I'm breaking it down, because I think I just kind of do it kind of flowy. But it's good to just make sure when you're learning to keep that hand far. You don't need the yo-yo to wind all the way up. You really don't need much wind on that yo-yo. So you can kind of really kind of play around with how far you can kind of get that out. The longer this string is between here to here, and the closer this is to your hand, the easier that's going to be. And if you want to really give this some style, like I was saying before, I tend to kind of combine the steps. One of the things I do is instead of tossing and catching, I toss, catch, and pull. So that looks like I'm kind of starting that unwind with my free hand as I'm catching the yo-yo. Yeah. Okay, so next trick, just to kind of move on. I'm kind of doing this one. This is a good one for anyone kind of just getting used to counterweight play, 5A play. Basically, we're just going to switch sides. We're just going to do the string stall here. We're going to pop it off, change hands, and do a string stall here. And I'm really kind of making this harder than it needs to be. This is just good practice. You can also, do your pop over and check this out. I don't do this often. See, yeah, like I don't actually do the ambidextrous stuff, but it's good practice if you're beginning, and it's something to just kind of like add to your routine. So I'm just stalling, changing hands, stalling. When freehand was first created by Steve Brown, there was this idea that I think all the tricks we normally do, we could suddenly start doing them like ambidextrous. I think a lot of the early players, because we didn't figure out in the beginning of freehand, we didn't really figure out like letting go or momentum or stuff. I mean, like fairly quickly. But like I think in the beginning, the idea was that, oh, I can do a trapeze here, and now I can do a trapeze with my other hand, which didn't end up being the case. Uh, like I'm kind of glad that freehand isn't just ambidextrous yo-yoing, but there's still for kind of just like learning stuff, this is still a good practice. So once you have your left and right hand stalls, just kind of changing stalls, I think we're ready for the pop over. No, let me make sure I get my terminology here because I am terrible with. So the first trick we learned is the toss over, and then we learned alternating sides. So the toss over is that toss. I called it the pop over, pardon me, toss over, right? And then the next trick we're going to learn is the pop over, which looks like this. I'm going to start with the toss over. There we go. Yeah, we're getting really good really quickly here, right? So this trick is basically from here, toss, catch. That's what we're going to be learning. And what I would recommend to learn that trick is we're going to need to change the direction. So let's start with the stall. hop it out, cross arms, and then catch. So the important things here are when I hop it out, I still keep holding on to it, and my throw hand goes under my free hand. So I'm right-handed, so I'm just going to kind of say this. I'm going to do my stall, I'm going to hop out, and then my left hand is on top, my right hand is on bottom. So the hand that has the counterweight is on bottom. Once you're here, then what you're going to do is you're going to let go of the counterweight. And we're going to do this not as an aerial at first. We're going to do this just kind of very broken down. So I'm holding on to the sides of the yo-yo, like either side. I'm going to let go of the counterweight and let it swing all the way around. So notice I didn't uncross my arms. And then I'm going to drop the yo-yo and then pull it up. This will help you kind of get used to that move. So once again, we're going trapeze stall. I'm going to keep the yo-yo on my fingers, but I'm going to cross my arms and then catch. Is anyone having trouble with that catch? Because I know that can be kind of a tough move. Once you have that catch, notice I'm catching on the sides rather than like holding the yo-yo like this. I'm just holding onto the sides, so that way the yo-yo can unwind. And then I'm just going to drop the yo-yo and pull up. Howdy, Hesperox. I'm going to try to say it right. So, trapeze stall, out, catch, drop and swing the weight, catch it. My arms don't cross that whole time. When I do that move, it's just very static, cross-armed. I know I have my black shirt on, and then drop. All right, Hesperox is having trouble with the catch. If you have any suggestions for him, drop it in the chat, and I'm going to see if I can kind of help with this too, because I think this is one of those tricks that I definitely take for granted when doing this, that catch. So a couple things that have helped me out is to remember to keep that string, keep this string on my finger. So when I'm here and I hook off, I'm still kind of gripping onto the string, and then I'm just crossing my arms. So if I did that without, that's a little harder. See how I wasn't holding on to the string? I'm going to go out and catch. But if I hold on to the string, if I hop it out and keep it on my hand, on my finger, then it's really just a tug and it's going to come straight to your hand. Xmime is asking if I'm catching with the Talon Pinch, and the Talon Pinch is rah, rah, right? So, if you like caught on the sides like that, that's a Talon Pinch. There's a lot of cool grinds and stuff you can do from there. And the answer is, I'm not. The answer is I am actually catching kind of in the palm of my hand, and then I am switching to the Talon Pinch, which, let's see if we can get back in focus here. Focus. So that's what you want to end up in, which is the Talon Pinch. And so to answer that question, I'm catching actually kind of like catching here, and that's because the pinky was holding that string when I did this crossover. Like that string is kind of just going to bring it into my hand, and then I just kind of switch positions. And Hesper, I was giving some advice to, and it turned out my advice was totally wrong for what the issue Hesper was having, which is catching the wrong hand. So let's just kind of talk about that. I'm right-handed. I'm going to swing to my left, cross my arms with my left hand on top, and catch in my left hand. So I never let go of the counterweight until here. So yeah, let's get into that. Like, we want to get into that aerial now. So before we get into that aerial, let's just kind of talk about this move one more time. So we're switching to that Talon grip. We're swinging around and catching and then dropping. And that drop is not a great drop. It's not going to get you a lot of spin. So the goal is to really kind of like drop and pull to kind of like generate it. So let's get into the aerial part now. So we're here, here. My left hand is on top. The yo-yo is in my left hand. What I'm going to do is actually uh, let go. I'm going to do that release that we did before, but this time when I release and the counterweight is right about here, I'm going to let go of the yo-yo and I pull my left hand out. So catch, cross-armed catch, talon hold. I'm going to let go. And when I let go, I do have to admit that I do kind of hop the yo-yo up a little bit as well. That momentum of the counterweight, you're letting go here, but really the counterweight is sort of doing its full swing. So the counterweight is sort of pulling the yo-yo up in the air too. If you want to style this up, I'm kind of taking my hand out for the moment, but if you want to style this up, all you have to do is really kind of make sure you keep your hands where they are, you know, just so you really get that like kind of cross-armed motion going. But you can also, once you let go, you can also just kind of take your left hand out of the picture entirely. So I am catching with my right hand either way. Holding it with my left hand, dropping the counterweight, and then I'm going to catch, but I'm going to do that midair. All right, who's landed that? Hespero's landed it. Anyone else? Anyone else having luck with the pop over? Remember, the first one we learned is a toss over, and then we can go cross armed into the pop over. So let's talk about just putting those together as a combo. Like I just said, I mean, that was basically the combo. But the first trick we learned is the toss over, stall, toss, and then keep your hand in and catch cross-armed. See if we can do that better. Let's see if we can do that better. And then catch, if you want, back into a trapeze stall. So that's really our first combo. I think I'm going to switch yo-yos for a bit. So Hespero's got it. Hopefully other folks have it. Howdy to anyone who's joining in. Sorry if I'm going in and out of focus. All right, let's see here. Boop. There we go. This yo-yo I'm using is a Stupid by Toy Bonnia, Yo-Yo Empire. I think Yo-Yo Empire, Toy Bonnia make it. They also make a yo-yo called The Thing. This is like a $35 Delarin responsive yo-yo. It's awesome. This is also surprisingly around $35. It is killer. I don't know how they do it. I'm hella jealous. But yeah, when you are picking yo-yos, really go for what you like. I really like using light yo-yos for responsive play. This yo-yo is a bit on the heavy side, but it's also still nice and snappy. The reason I go for light yo-yos with responsive play is I just find that in general, they're very responsive. You don't, when you have a lot of outer weight, it's really wanting to keep spinning and keep sleeping. And if you have a lighter yo-yo, you're not going to have that, so it's not going to fight you when you give it a tug. That being said, man, this yo-yo is, I mean, I like using plastic yo-yos for responsive freehand, but this yo-yo is pretty dope. Okay, cool. Tangent City. I'm going to show you, for those of you that have gotten this popover, this little aerial, I'm going to show you a flourish that I've just recently figured out. It's a pretty new flourish, and I'm really digging it. So this is kind of like, if you already have that trick, here's a cool thing you can do. It's going to look like this. Oh, come on. Let's do that better. Oh, y'all. There we go. Wow. Can I describe that? if I can barely even hit it. So what I'm doing is that toss over, but I'm actually catching the string here. I'm actually catching it here and allowing the counterweight to spin around. So I'm just getting a little flourish, like I said. It's the same trick, but I'm just getting a little flourish in there. So I am, instead of catching the counterweight, I am catching the string and letting the counterweight spin. That counterweight's then going to spin around, and I'm going to give the pull, and I'm going to end up basically in kind of a brother. I don't have a name for this yet. It's just a fun flourish. You do want to, like one thing I'm doing is I'm catching too close to the counterweight, and I want to catch closer. Oh yeah, Butterfly XT is good. Do you have to, if you're using the Butterfly XT, do you have to do much maintenance on it? Maybe I'll go back to my weekender, day tripper. All right, we are going to move on to, pull starts. Can I do a pull start today? Yeah, we're going to try to do a pull start. Pull starts are going to have that Talon grip that we were talking about. And so what you're going to do is you're actually going to start with the Talon grip and pull the yo-yo. So I am loosely holding with this motion here. Loosely holding so that I can pull and the yo-yo will kind of get its charge, it'll get its spin. And this is when you want to have a good tight wind to start with. So I'm going to have the string on top of the yo-yo. And so like basically, like if I were throwing a breakaway, like if I normally would throw a breakaway like this, I'm going to be in that breakaway throw position, but I'm just going to grab the yo-yo and I'm going to put my two fingers here and here. I'm not pinching tight. I'm just keeping my fingers in enough so that the yo-yo can spin within my hand. So we're going to do that as the yo-yo kind of winds back up. So we're pulling out. We're not trying to keep it sleeping at the outside. As the yo-yo winds back up, I'm going to let go, like just kind of let it wind up a little bit, let go and catch and drop. So that's going to look like, and dry fingers really help with this. I filmed a video with a Kyle Nations once in St. Louis, and he spent most of his time doing this. Okay, I'm going to drop. You can see it's wrapped around my hand. An interesting thing here is this is a terrible spin from here. This wind, when I drop, it's going to be very like not ideal. It's not what you want. But if you just drop and pull, so here, around, drop and pull out. When I drop it, I keep it draped on my left hand. Draped on my left hand, and then hop around. Drop, hop around. And if you're finding the yo-yo is kind of unwinding weird, that's just because this is not the way it normally wants to be held. When you do this, it's just kind of counterintuitive to what you want. And it really the yo-yo actually kind of really wants to be this way and dropped, but we have to go with what we have. So we have this wind, the yo-yo is kind of wound up on the top, drop and out. I'm going to do that normal speed. One of the things, the effect you're going for visually with this trick, with this pull start, the effect is that you pull the counterweight out and then it kind of goes back in. It's kind of like pulling a lawnmower, puller or something, right? Like, zoom. And when when the counterweight goes out and it starts to come back in, the effect is that you want to let go of the counterweight and let it continue around as if it's kind of being pulled by the yo-yo. And it sort of is if you do it right. So when you break it down, I am kind of cheating it a little bit. Like I am the yo-yo stopping and going around. But when I actually do this trick at normal speed, the yo-yo is still spinning when I let go. And what that's going to do is it's going to accelerate that around motion. I mean, just a little bit. Like it's still kind of just on its way out. X-Mime has a good idea of baby powder on my hands. Yes, that is a good idea. Thank you for that. I will make some designer Doc Pop baby powder for fragile little moist hands like myself. Cool. All right. I'm hoping the pull starts are something that you can kind of come back to if you need. This live stream will be archived, so you can watch it later. Let's talk about double explosion. Is that what it's called? Yeah, double explosion, which looks like this. Boop. Yeah. Thanks for watching, Fred. Okay, so double explosion is going to start with a double or nothing. And right as you are going to land the double or nothing, so double or nothing usually looks like this. But instead of the yo-yo sleeping, we want to give the yo-yo a tug and catch it in a stall from a double or nothing. So that's going to look like this. And when we do this, what's going to happen is we're going to let go of the counterweight exactly as we're catching the double or nothing. So right as that stall happens, we're going to let go of the counterweight. And what's going to happen is the counterweight's going to spin around. I'm hooking on with my right hand. So let's do that. I'm going to break it down. Stall, let go. Oops. Let go. And then kind of spins. At full speed, it looks like this. You can see as the counterweight winds around, I hook with my pointer finger just to kind of hang on to it. The counterweight is going to spin, and luckily it's just perfect to hit the bottom of your wrist, at which point you're just going to change the direction and pull over. So unfortunately, there's only one speed you can do this trick. There we go. So yeah, this is kind of where I am. Yo-yo, the counterweight, the yo-yo stays still. The counterweight continues and hits my palm. I send it back over and I roll it out. Sometimes I cheat it a little bit and hold. Like if the stall is barely working and if I see the stall's kind of like ready to fall off, the yo-yo's falling out, sometimes I'll do that. It's really not the best form. You kind of want to just keep it on a stall. So this is the double explosion, double or nothing. And I am letting go of that counterweight right when the yo-yo, I actually let go before the yo-yo hits the string. When I give the yo-yo a tug for the double or nothing stall, when I give it the tug is when I let go of the counterweight. So I don't let go when it's landed, I let go before it's landed. And if you're extra lucky, the yo-yo will stall crammed up right next to your finger, and it'll kind of stall on like a tight stall. And what that means is it's almost kind of jammed in there, like the strings kind of worked in there, and it's not going anywhere. Like if you're lucky, that's kind of the end result you'll have there. And that comes from like a hard breakaway. But I'm not relying on that. I'm just really just relying on, the yo-yo just landing nicely. Anybody having luck with the double explosion? Any questions on the double explosion? Double explosion. All right, so let's talk about free gens. Free gens are something that existed a long time ago, before we were really exploring modern responsive play, back at kind of like the tail end of responsive play, which was just normal play, like right before bind returns. One of the things that we used to kind of play around with was just basically taking a counterweight yo-yo and just giving it a tug. Yeah, giving it a tug and trying to catch it. Like basically you're taking this, you're giving it a tug as if you're going to catch it, but instead you are going to let go. Oh, these are great sounds. Now keep in mind I have a lamp here and kind of a little ceiling and not ideal lighting. Basically, what I'm showing you is just a concept because this is the trick I never got down consistently. It's kind of making a comeback. I know we could do it better than that. Yeah. But this is just a fun concept and something to play with. I think there's a lot of potential for free gens. And a free gen is just a tug and letting go. Yeah, I feel like I'm kind of getting better there. So, actually, let me correct myself. I was kind of saying toss and tug. What I actually think works best for a free gen is if you give it a breakaway, you're doing a breakaway, but maybe instead of aiming for here, you're kind of letting here and kind of pulling up, letting go. The yo-yo is going to, it happens super fast, but basically the yo-yo is going to wind and then unwind. It's going to change the direction of the spin, or the wind, and you just catch it on that. I haven't gotten it to the point where, I'm like throwing it straight into stuff yet. Uh, maybe it's just a lack of practice. But yeah, free gens are a thing to practice and explore. Oh boy. Yeah, be careful for losing your free hand. Free gens are not nice to your yo-yo or your counterweight. These are leather counterweights and they age surprisingly well, but this is exactly the sort of thing. A free gen is just a really harsh way to kind of treat your yo-yo. But that being said, I even feel like just kind of hanging out with y'all and doing this trick, I feel like I'm kind of getting it a little better. Yeah, so free gens, just a concept. Lots to explore. Definitely practice outside. All right. I'm going to show you something I haven't done a tutorial for yet. This is a new move that I love, and I haven't named it. I love this move though. So one thing you might notice is I have a weird habit of catching the yo-yo in my left hand. Um, this is just a weird tendency I have when I'm playing freehand. My theory is I do it because this hand has a counterweight in it, and this is normally you would do tricks and then kind of catch it in the counterweight. But for some reason with responsive play, I find that I tend to catch with my left hand. And I think this is because, it's easier, it's palm up, but it's given me the opportunity to do stuff. Like one thing you might have seen is when I'm doing tricks, I might just kind of hop it out from there. It's not much. It's just kind of like a little flourish or whatever. It's just an unusual little thing. Like I could catch here, but instead I'm catching with my left hand. The thing I'm actually going to show you though, it looks like this. Oh, let's do that again. Okay, that was a lot. Mainly what I wanted to show you is that little extra flourish that I'm doing here. So let's talk about that catch. That catch, if you remember when we cross arms for the popover, remember how I said keep it on your hand, keep it on your finger, and catch it. That's easier than just letting go and trying to catch. So what we're going to do is that same thing, except I'm just going to bring it back over. So I'm doing out, I'm hooking, and my arms aren't crossed. So this is exactly the same catch as this, except I'm just going to keep it on that hand. So it's kind of doing like a little kind of around the world or something, and I'm catching it there. I catch it. My pinky is always holding onto that string. I'm actually kind of holding to that string with all these fingers, and then right before I catch it, I open up those fingers and I just catch it embedded in there. So once you have that catch, you can if you want just throw it back out, right? So you're here. I'm going to do that little catch. I could just throw it out, but once you have that catch, what I'm going to do next, and this is the cool part of this trick, right, is I'm going to move my hand halfway down the string. So I'm going to move from here, and notice when I say moving my hand, I'm keeping it hooked and I'm just holding on to this. I'm just holding on. I don't think it matters what type of hold you have, but I'm just doing this. And then I'm going to do one circle with the counterweight, and that just goes like this, right? So boop. And then I'm going to throw the yo-yo. I'm going to throw as I'm doing that spin. And I guess like a lot of the other tricks, the longer you make this string, the easier this is to do. So if I do the same trick and I catch it really close, it's not really going to be easy to do. So if you're having trouble with this, really try to keep your hands far apart. Try to force yourself to keep your hands far apart. And then you're going to hold on to the yo-yo, bring your hand halfway down the string, like just basically, I'm just kind of like doing this. I'm like sliding. I know that's the punch me game, but boop, right? One circle. And as I do that circle, I'm going to throw the yo-yo. And that throw, that toss, is going to be right as the counterweight is, I think, here. So the counterweight is swung, and at that same height, I'm going to toss the yo-yo, and it's a super soft toss. There's, I'm obviously not getting a big throw on it, and yet you don't need much. You really don't need much toss for this. And then the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to catch the counterweight in my left hand and my free hand. So right hand comes in, swings, left hand throws the yo-yo at the same speed and timing as the counterweight. I catch the counterweight, and then I catch a stall, a brother stall. So I think I might have kind of glossed over some of that. We're talking here a lot, but when I throw that yo-yo, the next thing I'm worried about isn't what's happening with the yo-yo. The next thing I'm worried about is just catching that counterweight on the next rotation. That's where my mind is kind of thinking about. So I'm here. My hand just goes palm down. When I throw the yo-yo, I just quickly shift the palm down, and just get ready to catch that counterweight. And that counterweight is going to be just the right position. And then when I catch the counterweight, I'm catching here. So I'm kind of catching anywhere on the string and then just kind of catching it here. And the yo-yo has just been tossed, and you give it a quick tug. So the yo-yo is kind of sleeping there, and I'm going to give it a quick tug and try to catch it just into a little trapeze or a little brother stall. From here, let go of my thumb and follow it around. Y'all, is this crazy? I can't, because I can't see you. I don't know if this is working for you. Let me know. Like if you're landing that trick, that unnamed trick. I have another trick called the Fibonacci sequence, which is a very similar, catch and unwind. This trick is obviously inspired by that, but I don't know. I think it's easier. There's a video for Fibonacci sequence. I'm not going to show you Fibonacci sequence because it's a tricky one. All right. Moving on from this trick, which I'll just show you one more time. So we did the trapeze stall. We hopped it and caught it in our left hand instead of our right hand. Let's talk about this. There's a lot of potential for counterweight brother stalls. And this is worth noting because this is kind of an alternate brother stall. Normally, a brother, you have the trapeze and you have the brother. So normally the brother is going to be on my throw hand. And you could totally do that. But what I want to talk about is actually just this. So the easiest way to get into this stall, which is the alternate, brother stall, is to transfer the counterweight. You're throwing a breakaway, letting the yo-yo spin. I'm going to bring my hand here and just let the counterweight switch hands. So I'm just going to go. My palm is up basically, or away, and well, I guess it's down at first, and then transfer, tuck. So this is a brother stall, but just a brother stall on your left side. Then the next thing you can do from here, like the reason I want to kind of get to this, the unnamed trick we were just doing, it kind of ends in that. And there's a lot of potential there. You might have seen me do this. I think that's a killer move. So we're just going to kind of learn to do that from here. So we're transferring the counterweight, and then we're doing a stall. It should look like this. Then what we're going to do is let go of the counterweight. And I'm not pinching this string, but I am going to hook this hand in. So I'm going to drop and I'm going to spin. So again, that's just here. I'm just going to drop, kind of bring that in, let it continue, and do a pullover. A lot of responsive counterweight tricks kind of have that nice little pullover flourish where you're kind of pinched below the string, below the counterweight. As I do that, I'm holding it here at first, but eventually, I guess basically when the yo-yo goes out, I just let the counterweight slide to the bottom of my hand, slide into my hand. such as a brother stall, drop, flip. It's kind of hard to do that. Like once you let go of here, it's kind of hard not to do that roll in the next motion. I'm trying to slow it down as much as I can. Something else you can do from that same stall, from the same brother stall, is kickflip and that pullover. So if you know kickflips, which I have no right to be teaching anything with kickflips because I am terrible with kickflips. But the basic idea of a kickflip is it starts with a stall, and then you rotate the yo-yo. You let go of the loop, you rotate the yo-yo, and you try to catch it back in the finger loop. Bam. So there's this loop. I'm letting go and I'm spinning. The yo-yo spins all the way around, and then my finger goes back in. So that's a kickflip. Shout out to Drew and Ed for their work exploring the realm of kickflips. My favorite responsive kickflip is going to be from that brother stall. You're going to do this thing again, but surprise, you're going to add a kickflip. So you are going to kickflip, catch, and then let go. Or actually, really, ideally, that's all going to happen at the same time. The letting go of the counterweight is going to happen. So you're actually going to have a counterweight moving on this plane, and the yo-yo is flipping on this plane. Again, kickflip is, just the yo-yo flipping and going around. So we're going to do that same flip, but we're going to do it from the stall. Let's see if we can, yeah. Nope. And of course, what makes this trick just really killer is that it's taking place on two planes. Yeah, or that there's a lot happening at the same time. But I think the fact that you've got this plane and this plane just makes it so cool. So once you have this, if you have kick flips, then really it just kind of makes sense to just try to do them together. Oh, I was so close. Any kickflip legends out there? Anybody that's just killer with kickflips? Let me know in the chat. So we have 6 more minutes left. We talked about modern responsive as just kind of the idea of a snappy yo-yo, almost a yo-yo you could loop with, and you're doing tricks oftentimes where the yo-yo isn't sleeping during the trick. The trick is actually happening when the yo-yo is just in a stall. And maintenance, you want a high wall yo-yo, something just with really high walls that's going to make stalls easier to land. A lighter weight yo-yo, I think, is going to make tricks more consistent. And you want to use a silicone lube, not an oil. I use Traxxas. It's available on Amazon. I haven't found anything else quite like it. Like in yo-yo stores, most yo-yo stores have like a light bearing oil. Traxxas is like a whole different thing. It's meant for RC cars. But a white silicone grease, you can go to the hardware store and buy white silicone grease, and it's going to come in something like this big, with like a tool to get it out or whatever. But like, yeah, you can use that too. This stuff is super cheap, so I recommend just getting this stuff. Keep your string short when you're doing responsive yo-yoing, and that's going to make stalls easier. The longer your string, the more fluff you're going to have inside your gap, and that fluff, that substance, the bigger that is, the harder it is to keep the yo-yo stalled. So if you have my outer diameter here, there's just a little bit of kind of room for like a stall, but that's because the yo-yo is wound up. Ideally, it would be more like that, where there's tons of room inside. There's a big difference between those two. And one of the ways to do that is by using a shorter string. Another way to do that is by forcing yourself to keep your hands far apart. So you're not catching here, you're catching here. That's going to make stalls easier. The closer it is to your free hand, to my left hand, the easier it is to catch. But also it's going to mean that there's going to be more string for me to play with when I'm doing my toss over, my pop over. Yeah. Yeah. If there's any more questions, let me know in the chat. Otherwise, I can just kind of like yo-yo for a bit. You know, there is one more trick. I don't know. Like again, I can't see what y'all are seeing or like what's going on for y'all. I'm going to show you one more trick. This is also a new trick that I haven't posted a tutorial yet for. It's called Kashaka, and it looks like this. The reason it's called a Kashaka, Kashakas are those percussion toys. It's like two balls with a string between them. And you kind of shake them and you know, chicka, 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 and you tap them. You can kind of hear the yo-yo counterweight hitting. So what I'm doing here is I am throwing a breakaway. I'm catching the string about a third or a quarter down. So pretty much of the string here, I'm catching the string here with my free hand, with my left hand. So I'm throwing with my right hand, throwing a breakaway. I'm catching here, giving it a tug, and that tug is really kind of happening with both hands because you are kind of like pinching it. So I'm not quite sure. I guess I am. If I'm kind of saying what my gut says, I'm giving it a tug here with my right hand. But what's going to happen is I'm going to let go of the counterweight and catch the yo-yo in my left hand. The counterweight is going to accelerate and spin around. So then I'm kind of like, it's around this finger, it's in my hand, and I just do the same thing on the other side, talking about that ambidextrous kind of play. So I'm throwing a breakaway, I'm catching it close to the counterweight. Yeah, here we go. We'll break this down. So as I'm looking at it further, I'm catching it between my pointer and middle finger, kind of like that, kind of like a trapeze stall, but I'm catching it in my hand. So it's very similar to a trapeze stall, except I'm catching it in my whole hand, letting go. The counterweight wraps around my hand, hits, and then unwraps because it just hit. So it unwraps, and I throw the breakaway with my left hand. Kashaka. And you can play around with where you grab, you know, like what, if you're having trouble with this, you can kind of play around with where you're grabbing the string. Like maybe try grabbing it closer to the counterweight or further away from the counterweight. If I grab it too close to the counterweight, instead of wrapping around, it just kind of gets pulled into my hand. So here I grabbed too close, and so like I want to give it more string. I want to catch it further down. For me, ideally, it'll wrap. So I did that catch. It'll wrap around my hand and just hit just right there. That's kind of the ideal length. And then throw and throw. If you catch it too far away from the counterweight, it's going to slowly wrap around your hand, and it's going to be really hard to kind of control. So there's a sweet spot. There we go. Yeah, wrong. Kashaka bra. All right, well, um, unless there's any more questions, I am going to pack my yo-yos up. For more videos, check out my YouTube channel. Huge shout out to all of my Patreon sponsors who helped make all of my podcast vlogs possible and videos like this. There was a few people on Patreon who said they missed my first live stream workshop, so that's why I wanted to set it up and do it again. Hopefully you learned something. If you have any tricks to share, I recommend using hashtag modern responsive on Instagram. Feel free to tag me at DocPop, DOCPOP on Instagram as well. I love seeing the tricks you're doing. And if you have any questions, leave them in the comments below, and I'm going to try to answer them. And thanks to everyone who joined today. I really appreciate it. Oops, yeah, boop, 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 boop. Got lots of folks here. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining. Yeah, bam. Cool. Cheers. Word to your mother. We'll see you later.